Hello. So I'm just going to get straight into this. I was running late, I was coming back from work, the bus broke down. Someone definitely doesn't want this information getting out, but we made it. If you saw my message earlier, we're going to work with a step. If you have a step, if not a stack of books, the stairs in your house, something that's about say 6 inches, that looks like 4 inches high, just something reasonable. The idea here, so we're going to focus primarily on one major movement. We're going to break it down into different parts, but it's essentially one major movement. And so far we've mostly looked at the spine in what's called a sagittal plane, like flexion or extension flexion. Now we're going to look at it in a lateral view and work on lateral movement. So if you're familiar with my work so far, well, not my work, I didn't make it up, it's anatomy in motion, and it's just biomechanics. We have this concept of cogs. It's opposition basically in the joints. When one goes this way, when we're moving, another joint will move in opposition to counterbalance and to keep us, generally to keep our eyes level with the horizon and to keep everything balanced and working together. So this concept of mechanical cogs and opposition can be seen throughout the body, which is why I hammer on about it all the time, because it's really useful to understand. And if you can really feel it, you can understand a lot of things that are hard to actually articulate, but you can feel them, and it's really useful. So you're going to use a step, and what the step is going to do is it's just going to create a natural hike in our hip. So you don't have to have your both legs straight, because you can't, you'll end up like this, but you can have a slight bend in your knee, and we're just going to create this natural hike in the hip. So if you place your hands on the front of your pelvis, this bone roughly where your pockets start, this should be higher, the leg we're working on. Now if you don't have a step, what you can do is you can just bend one knee to drop. So this might actually be a good exercise to start with, is to be able to drop one knee and create this this hike or drop in the pelvis. This is a movement that's entirely in what we call the frontal plane. So if you imagine there's a pane of glass in front of you and behind you, you can't fall forward, you can't twist. It's entirely a side-to-side motion. So by dropping the knee, the pelvis drops here, remains level, and then if I drop my left knee, it drops here and remains level there. So this is the side to side frontal plane movement. If you have a step, it's a bit easier, but good to know how to do both. So the step, we're going to have a slight bend in the knee just for comfort, but once we maintain this hike here. So this is going to be particularly useful for back pain when bending to the side, or back pain that's really one-sided. You only really feel it on the right or on the left, whatever it is. Same thing with shoulders. So again, as an assessment, and I mentioned it in the Instagram stories earlier, if you've got uneven shoulders, uneven hips, or a leg length difference, it can be coming from something like this. We talk about having movements being on a spectrum. We have, say, full contraction or full flexion, and then full relaxation or full extension. So a bicep here is at this range, it's lengthened, and a bicep here is at this range and it's shortened. All joints, all muscles have this spectrum, and what we want is an ability to move in and out of all of it, and usually have a nice resting point at the center, which we would call a neutral posture or center, according to anatomy in motion. So this is what we're going to be working on, these kind of lateral movements, and like I said, people tend to be stuck one way. They tend to be hiked or dropped, one shoulder's up, the head is tilted one way, and you can look in the mirror, you can see for yourself, are you slightly imbalanced? And we're going to work on that. So we're going to start with the right leg, going to hike this up slightly, and the idea is we're just reaching down into our pocket, into a really deep imaginary pocket down towards your knee, and back up. Now this shouldn't be painful. So again, if you've got pain, say on the left side of your back, and you reach and you get that twinge, you get that thing that makes you hold your breath or catch yourself, don't do this. This is too much. Now, if you can move to here pain-free, but here it gets sore, then just move as far as you can pain-free. Stay within that range. That's your comfort zone. That's this circular comfort zone. And you're pushing those edges gradually, and that's going to grow as you begin to move and things desensitize. So do what you can pain-free without aggravating anything. There's no point. You're wasting your time if you aggravate the pain. So the idea is we're just reaching down into here, which is going to compress here, close this area, bring us to this end, the contraction range. But then here we're opening and stretching that area, which is bringing these muscles and these joints into that open range. And so it's open, close, open, close. So that's the basic movement. That's straightforward enough. You can try that. A couple of things to look out for is you might shift your pelvis in order to find that space. So if you're unable to laterally flex through your ribs, what you'll do is you'll shift the pelvis over, and it's not really the same movement. So pay attention to that. Notice, does that happen on one side? Does it happen on both sides? And just be strict with yourself. Take your time. Do it right. One way to kind of think about this is you're not simply just reaching down to the side. You're kind of reaching up and over. So if you think of, say there's like a fence here, and I'm trying to reach, there's a fence here, and then for some reason there's a bowl of cereal here that I want to get to. I have to reach over and to it. I don't just go forward because the fence is in my way. I'm going up and over. So it's this kind of decompressing motion of the spine. The spine is reaching up towards the ceiling and then over. And what you should feel is that that's really going to open up the segments of the spine. So these are segments, for argument's sake, of the spine here that are opening up as I decompress. Whereas if you just reach to the side, you're not necessarily getting that decompression, you're more sort of getting a shift and more compression perhaps. So something to play with. So let's do a few rounds of that, spend about a minute or so, and we're going to kind of reach, you can kind of think of reaching your head up towards the ceiling and reaching down. You should feel like this is opening up. So keep doing that for a minute or so. It's nice to time movements with breathing and map them to a breathing phase if we can, and we can with this one. What we're going to do here is we're going to inhale as we reach down and then exhale as we come back to our starting position. What I want you to focus on is breathing into the ribs here, kind of thinking of opening them. And this is another useful assessment. If you observe your posture, you might find that you're actually kind of closed, kind of compressed through one portion of your ribs, and you can breathe well into one side but not the other. So this exercise is going to be really good for that, where say I'm compressed here and I don't really breathe into this portion of my chest. As I reach down, I'm going to try and breathe into here and use the movement of the lungs, the expansion of the lungs, to move those ribs and open up that whole area. So if I'm opening here, my focus is here with my breath. Inhale, and then exhale. So, once you're comfortable with that, I want to do more of an awareness exercise. It's about feeling the tension, the continuous tension that we can create in the body. And it teaches us a lot about this opposition between the ribs and pelvis. So what we're going to do is we're going to inhale, kind of decompress actively, reaching up towards the ceiling with our spine, and then reaching down into the pocket. And I want you to feel this sort of tension here, like you're taking the slack out of out of an elastic band. You're taking that slack out here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to counterbalance the head, which is then taking the slack out of here. So we think of our cogs, we're going one way here, which takes the slack out of my thumb to this thumb, and then what's happening above is the opposite, is the opposition, and we're taking the slack out of here to here. So you're inhaling into those ribs, feeling that pull, and then counterbalancing. And I just got 3 little pops there. It's like I'm a chiropractor, but I'm not. And this is one of those really cool things, is a lot of chiropractic adjustments are they're just creating a bit of movement in a joint that might be a bit stiff, or a release of air. It's nothing really dramatic, but you can do that yourself if you have the awareness and you have the control of your body, and you can kind of tension everything. So I find this really useful for self-care, and it can be quite satisfying as well to get those little pops. So again, let's spend a minute kind of beginning to feel that, taking the slack out of here and then taking the slack out of the head. And we want to keep this movement very much a lateral, side to side movement. You're going to find that you probably naturally droop forward or back in order to ease things off. So just pay attention to that. Be really meticulous. Are you slouching forward? Are you arching back? Play around with that. Do you get a bit more tension, or do you find that where you are has a lot of slack in it? Can you straighten up and find that bit of tension, find that bit of slack, and get rid of it? And then counterbalance with the head, and the same thing with the head. If you tuck the chin forward, it's going to put more tension on the back. Then if you tilt the head back, it's going to put slack into the back of the neck. So play around with the little angles, the little adjustments to feel that tension. So again, it's like this continuous elastic band, like you're a soft tissue. All your muscles, ligaments, joints, nerves are continuous soft tissue, and we're just taking the slack joint by joint, taking it all out and winding up the system. And that's really good for building up elastic energy and moving efficiently. So it's a nice skill to have, it's a nice awareness to have. So here, reaching down, counterbalancing, and we should get that nice opening here in the neck. You might get a few pops. Again, only do what you can, pain-free. So the next thing is just to kind of make this nice and smooth. So it should be happening all together. As I reach down, I should be counterbalancing the head at the same time. So it's not a reach and then counterbalance. It's like this. So you're training the cogs all at the same time. And you're going to get a lot of really nice movement in the spine. So quickly, coming up to 20 minutes now, so we won't go over 25. We're quickly going to do the left side. Same thing, set yourself up, slight bend in the knee. If you don't have a step, just bend the right knee so that you have a hike in the left side that we're working on now. I'm going to use the step because I have them, and I've got this hike here, and now I'm just going to reach down, explore that, get used to that initially. That's fine. So now again I'm thinking not so much just reaching down, but decompressing and reaching over and down. So again, this idea of like a fence, and you're reaching over it rather than just reaching straight forward. So you're going up and then that reach. So really decompressing the segments of the spine on this side, on the opening side. Once you're confident with that, let's just bring in the head, counterbalancing, and then we bring in the breathing. Inhale into the opening side, reach down, exhale, come back. Let's do this for another minute. We got a minute. Again, being mindful of not shifting that pelvis away. So keeping the pelvis directly above the legs, so you're not reaching like this, you're reaching above the pelvis. And one more. And that's it. So this is something you can do, again, within a pain-free range of motion. Do as much as you can. You're going to find that once you reintroduce all of these joints, all of these muscles to their full range, so not just one end, so if you're up here, if this is your habitual posture, you're exposing it to the opposite. Open, close, or close, open, close, open. You're exploring that entire range. You're giving the brain new information and opportunity to let go of any previous fears, any protective tension, and give it more freedom of movement and less pain. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back on Monday. If you have any requests, specific topics, specific positions, I'm going to focus on back pain. Pretty much any kind of pain, because I mean, I'm doing this 4 times a week. I'm going to run out of ideas, so just send me requests, very specific positions or very general things. Let me know and we'll cover those. I hope you have a good day.